In 1972, a young woman stepped into a dimly lit theater and became a name no one could forget. Her face, soft and unassuming, hid a storm. Her story, one of fame and pain, would spark debates that echo still. Her name, Linda Lovelace, a name that danced on the edge of desire and despair. This is her story. Linda Susan Boreman was born on January 10, 1949 in the Bronx, New York, a working-class neighborhood where the hum of city life drowned out dreams. Her father, John, a police officer, was a ghost in her life, always working, rarely home. Her mother, Dorothy, a waitress, ruled the house with a heavy hand. Love, to Linda, was a shadow, cold, demanding, and often cruel. She was a quiet girl, nicknamed Miss Holy Holy by her classmates. At Catholic schools, St. John the Baptist, Maria Regina, she kept her head down. Her faith was her shield, her shyness her armor. But beneath it all, a longing stirred, a longing to be seen, to be free. At 16, her family moved to Davie, Florida. The sun was brighter, but the home darker. Linda's mother's rules tightened, her punishments harsher. At 19, Linda gave birth to a son, a secret her mother forced her to surrender. The baby was given up for adoption, and Linda's heart broke quietly. She dreamed of escape, not to fame, but to a life where she could breathe. In 1970, Linda, now 21, lay by a pool in Florida, recovering from a car crash. Her body was scarred, a lacerated liver, broken ribs, a fractured jaw. A blood transfusion saved her life, but left her with hepatitis, a silent wound. That's when he appeared, Chuck Traynor, 27, a bar owner with a sports car, and a smile that promised freedom. To Linda, he was a lifeline. Within weeks, they were living together, but the man who seemed like a savior soon became her captor. Chuck's charm faded into control. He demanded her loyalty, her obedience. He pulled her into a world she didn't understand, a world of late-night parties and shadowy deals. Linda, vulnerable and searching, followed. Her body, her choices, no longer felt like her own. What does it mean to be free when the cage is built by someone you thought you loved? Linda's story asks us to look at the chains we don't always see.
When I first met Mr. Traynor, he came obviously, regular apple pie, Mr. America, the kind of a male that your mother and father would want you to go out with, opening doors, very respectful and things like that. And when I had moved in with him because I wasn't getting along with my parents, and we had a platonic relationship, I eventually found...
By 1972, Linda was no longer just Linda Boreman. She was Linda Lovelace, a name crafted by a director who saw her as a symbol. Her role in a film, a groundbreaking, bold, controversial project, catapulted her to fame. It was called Deep Throat, a story with humor, a plot, and a woman at its center. It played in theaters across America, drawing crowds no one expected. Some said it earned hundreds of millions. Linda, they said, earned nothing. Her face was everywhere. Playboy spreads, magazine covers, late-night talk show whispers. She was called a star, a pioneer. But behind the spotlight, a darker truth lingered. Linda later claimed she was coerced, threatened, forced into that world. Her husband, she said, held power over her, sometimes with words, sometimes with worse. Her body became a battlefield, admired by millions, but no longer hers. Fame, they say, sets you free. But what if fame is just another cage? Linda's rise asks us to question what we celebrate and at what cost. The years that followed were a blur of contradictions. Linda starred in a sequel, Deep Throat Part 2, in 1974. It was softer, less bold, and flopped at the box office. She tried another film, Linda Lovelace for President, in 1975, a comedy, a satire. It promised a new start. But audiences wanted the old Linda, the myth, not the woman. She left Chuck Traynor that year. Divorce papers painted a grim picture, allegations of violence, of being forced into roles she didn't choose. Chuck denied it, claiming their life was a game, a performance. The truth, as always, lay somewhere in the cracks. Linda tried to reinvent herself. She married Larry Marchiano, a cable installer, in 1976. They had 2 children, Dominic and Lindsay. For a while, she was just Linda, a mother, a wife, a woman trying to heal. But the past wouldn't let go. Her name, her image, followed her like a shadow. In 1980, she published Ordeal, a book that tore the veil off her life. She wrote of abuse, of coercion, of a world that used her and discarded her. Some believed her, others doubted, calling her a liar, a woman rewriting her story. But her words struck a chord. She became a voice for those who felt silenced. What does it mean to tell your truth when the world only wants your myth? Linda's courage asks us to listen, even when it's uncomfortable.
You said one time that you were glad that you weren't around when they were making these snuff movies.
I'm glad I escaped from Mr. Trainer before that happened because I probably would have become a victim of that.
In the 1980s, Linda found a new purpose. She became a born-again Christian, her faith a refuge. She joined a movement against the industry that made her famous. Speaking out with conviction, she testified before Congress, her voice steady but heavy. "When you see that film," she said, "you're watching me being hurt." Her words divided. Feminists like Gloria Steinem embraced her. Others felt she was being used again, this time by a different cause. Linda, ever complex, walked her own path. She never returned to that world, but life was never easy. Her health faltered, a liver transplant in 1987, a legacy of that 1970 transfusion. Her marriage to Larry ended in 1996. Money was tight, and Linda, now in her 50s, sometimes signed autographs at conventions, not as a star, but as a survivor. In 2002, a car crash in Denver stole her breath. On April 22nd, at 53, Linda Lovelace passed away. Her ex-husband Larry and their children were by her side. Linda Lovelace was a paradox, a woman who lit up screens only to live in darkness, a name that sparked a revolution only to fight against it. Her life was not a simple story of triumph or tragedy. It was human, messy, painful, and fiercely real. She asked us to see her. Not the myth, not the symbol, but the woman, the girl from the Bronx who dreamed of freedom, the mother who loved her children, the voice who dared to speak even when the world turned away. What does it mean to be seen, to stand in the light, knowing it will burn? Linda's story lingers, because it's ours too, a reminder that behind every name is a heart, beating, breaking, and hoping. And maybe that's all we ever want, to be seen for who we are.
You said one time that you were glad that you weren't around when they were making these snuff movies.
I'm glad I escaped from Mr. Trainer before that happened because I probably would have become a victim of that.
This is Retrovidia, where we dig up the stories you were never supposed to hear. Like, subscribe. And if you've ever been judged for who you are, this story was for you.